All right, so Alexander, we have Putin in China, in Beijing for the Olympics. He met with Xi Jinping. They sign big deals, big gas deals. It's obvious that Russia is pivoting east. It's got Europe worried. Borrell gave a speech, I believe. Yes, he gave. I'm sorry, he gave a weekly write-up in his blog. He wrote in his blog that he's very concerned that Russia is sanction-proof, while the EU is not energy independent and is very weak when it comes to energy. So he's sounding the alarm bells as well. You also have the U.S. courting, I believe, Qatar and other countries to find various other energy sources for Europe. This is a very interesting situation, what's going on. But the big news was the big agreements between Putin and Xi. And before you get into it, Alexander, I just want to remind all our viewers that if you are watching this video on Rumble, please look up top. You will find a button, kind of a reddish maroon button, which will take you directly to our locals community. And in our locals community, you get all the great content that you see here, as well as all kinds of other content as well. And you can only find that on locals. Locals is fully integrated with Rumble. So you just have to click that button and you can just join our locals community as well. And you're going to get all kinds of other great things that we offer to the community. So that's for everybody that is watching this on Rumble. Up top, you will find that locals button. Anyway, Alexander, your thoughts? Putin, Xi, Beijing, Olympics, Borrell, all of these things.
Well, indeed. Well. I mean, this is the moment, I think, when the Western powers are starting finally to take this Chinese-Russian strategic partnership, which is better than an alliance, when they're finally starting to take it seriously. And you see this nervousness on the part of Borrell, who admits finally that the Russian economy is much more resilient than he'd even imagined, even in his wildest nightmares, and partly the fact that Russia has this strategic partnership with China is the cause of it. I mean, up till very recently, I mean, you still find articles in places that are still claiming this, that this isn't a real friendship, that the two countries are suspicious of each other, that, we can play them off against each other, that China's priority still is its relations with the United States, that, you have that ludicrous attempt by Blinken to try and call Wang Yi and to try to persuade Wang Yi to put the pressure on the Russians because, of course, China is more concerned about its relationship with the US than it is with Russia. I mean, you still get all of this. And then you get the reality. The reality is that a single unified economic bloc covering the largest continent in the world is emerging. And I think there were something like 16 agreements signed between, over the course of this visit between Xi Jinping and Putin. And what we know about, and we don't even know the full details of some of these agreements, because apparently one of these 16 agreements is divided into another 11 sub-agreements. But what is clearly underway is a massive process of integrating these two economies and Eastern Eurasia. So there's deals on gas, and they're going to be absolutely fundamental because now we've already got one big pipeline between Russia and China operating. This is Siberia 1. There's going to be another even bigger pipeline being built, Siberia 2, which will transfer natural gas from the same West Siberian fields that supply gas to Europe. That's going to be provided to China as well. Now, there's a third pipeline which is going to be built, which is from Sakhalin Island and the Russian Far East to China as well. So China's going to be receiving all this gas from Russia. The Russians are going to have less and less interest in supplying gas to Europe. And why should they supply gas to Europe? But it's the other agreements, perhaps, that are even more interesting, because what we're seeing is that there's now going to be cooperation on transport, on building, on aircraft building, on semiconductors. Apparently there is an agreement on semiconductors. I mean, we don't have the full details. China, of course, has a massive semiconductor industry. It's not quite as, at the absolute top level, they don't produce semiconductors as advanced as those in Taiwan and Korea, but they will before very long. And as has been pointed out to me many times, you don't anyway need the very top level of semiconductors, of chips, for every conceivable application. So anyway, but we're going to get, and of course the Russians also produce chips as well, and lots of them. We just don't know very much about that because it's all done within the ambit of the Rostec Corporation, which is largely a Russian military industrial complex type corporation, which keeps many of its activities secret. But there's going to be cooperation on that. There's going to be cooperation in every conceivable field, and of course in financing. So Russian-Chinese energy trade is going to be increasingly in euros rather than dollars. And then, of course, that's already working up towards integration of financial systems, which is going to mean eventually that the trade in euros is going to be replaced by trade in national currencies, or more probably trade in the digital versions of these national currencies. So this is the integration of Eurasia. And this is the big story in the world at the moment. It's far more important than, this business over Ukraine. And the Chinese are committed to it because, of course, it provides them with resilience. It gives them access to Russian energy, access to Russian food production, access to Russian strategic minerals, nickel, lithium. Apparently Russia has lots of lithium reserves, every conceivable other heavy metals and minerals that you can imagine. And of course, it gives the Russians access to Chinese manufacturing capabilities, which of course which they're going to import for themselves. And of course, there's going to be this big science and technology bloc emerging. I was reading a US official, an interview that an important US official gave, in which he said, that if we impose sanctions on Russia, banning high export goods to Russia, that's going to make the technology, the Russian economy more brittle, because China can only give to Russia what China has, and China doesn't have the kind of high technology that we do. You're kidding me. I mean, I asked myself, what planet are these people on?
Well, let me read you a quote from Jake Sullivan. And he said this, and I quote, he said, he believes China understands it is not positioned to compensate Russia for the economic losses that it would come from sanctions, and this is in regards to Ukraine, this Ukraine invasion. And then he went on to say, if Russia does choose to move forward, not only will it come at a strategic cost to Russia, once again, if Russia chooses to move forward with its invasion, but if China is seen as having supported it, it will come at some costs to China as well, in the eyes of the world, in the eyes of Europe, and in the eyes of other countries who are looking on now and sending a clear message that they would prefer to see diplomacy over war. So Sullivan is pretty much saying what he was saying to ABC was that they believe that China cannot compensate Russia if they put sanctions on Russia, and that China does not want to support Russia either way because it would just look bad to in the eyes of the world. Do you see any truth in the statements from Jake Sullivan?
Straightforwardly, no. I mean, first of all, we have Xi Jinping coming along and telling Putin. I mean, this is Xi Jinping, the Chinese leader. He says to Putin, "We've got each other back to back. We're both under pressure from the Americans. We have you at our back, and we have you. We are at your back. We are protecting you, and you are protecting us." and we stand together because, of course, we're under all this pressure from the Americans and we don't want to fall by ourselves. So, I mean, first of all, this is a strategic commitment by China and Russia to each other that the United States simply can't understand or internalize. And in terms of the Chinese inability to replace technologies, which the US allegedly has, which technologies? Who has more supercomputers, for example, China or the United States? Just asking. I mean, do these people actually, how much do these people actually know about China? How much do they actually know about Russia? Always there is this assumption that the United States is technologically miles ahead of these countries. Who is fielding at the moment hypersonic missiles? Who is carrying out hypersonic glide vehicle tests? Who is building, nuclear-powered drones? Who is more advanced in material science? It is this lack of knowledge, this ignorance, that really astonishes me. I was listening again, I think it was Sullivan again, who talked about the Russia having a one-dimensional economy. Ursula von der Leyen was saying exactly the same, just, I think, yesterday. I mean, do they really know what they're up against?
Well, what's your counter to the argument that guys like Sullivan and all of these government officials and the media always say, well, Russia's economy is the size of, I don't know, they say Texas or Cali, or is, behind Italy. I don't know. They always have this comparison where they say, well, Russia's economy is the size of Iowa. They throw this state in there, this economy. And that's, what's your counter to that?
Well, there's a very simple one. There's a very straightforward one, which has just been provided rather conveniently by The Economist. The Economist has this chart, which is, it says the Big Mac measure, where it compares the cost of a Big Mac in different countries, and it uses that to work out the value, the true value of a particular currency. And if you adjust the currency, then you begin to get a better sense of the actual size of a particular economy. And what it found is that the Russian ruble is the most undervalued of all the major currencies. It is more undervalued even than the Turkish lira is. I mean, that's a remarkable thought, that it trades at less than a third of its true actual value relative to the price structure in Russia. So if the true value of the Russian ruble is 23 rubles to the dollar, as opposed to 76 rubles to the dollar, which is what it trades in the international money markets, then of course you treble the size of the Russian economy immediately, at which point it's already looking bigger than Germany's significantly. And of course, you can go even further than that because there's all sorts of other hidden assets and advantages. And you start to look at an economy which is perhaps closer in scale to that of Japan's. So that originates from the Economist's Big Mac index. What they don't understand the size of the Russian economy. They don't understand its sophistication, its complexity, the fact that it is largely self-sufficient in food, energy, and raw materials, the fact that it has an advanced industry, that it is able to build extremely advanced nuclear-powered submarines, that it has an increasingly advanced civil aviation sector, that it's building its own civil aircraft, that it's now very advanced in building engines, aircraft engines, one of the most difficult and high-tech areas, that it's rebuilding its entire shipbuilding industry, that, as I said, it has actually a microprocessor and electronics industries. That it's, largely, it's got a very large steel and metals industries. they're not aware of any of this because, of course, this doesn't really feature in their own understanding of how the Russian economy works. It's one-dimensional. It's, still what was it, that notorious comment of McCain's, Senator McCain's, which still gets repeated, it's a gas station masquerading as a country. Look
What do you
at,
make of?
look at just this is just a military thing. Look at just one item of military equipment that the Russians are producing now in quantity, the Yasen-M nuclear-powered submarine. That isn't the kind of sophisticated piece of machinery that only a gas station produces. That requires enormously advanced engineering and manufacturing skills.
Yeah, these statements are coming from people like Sullivan or even Borrell. Do you think that the US or the EU or the powers that be actually believe these guys? I mean, it's no secret that they're not the smartest of people. I mean, Sullivan and Borrell are not exactly the sharpest knives in the drawer. But do you think when they express these views that China is not going to come to Russia's help or Russia's aid if they have sanctions, or China's going to feel like they're going to get a bad rap, a bad reputation on the world stage if they do help Russia?
As if China cares. I mean, God help us. I mean, this is. I mean,
do you think people believe them? I mean, do you think the government in Brussels or the DC establishment actually buys into what Sullivan and Borrell are saying, or if not, or even directing them to say that? I mean, do they actually believe this stuff, or do you think they're saying, let them go on TV and just say this nonsense? We do know the position that China's in. We do know the position that Russia's in, and we're going to need to negotiate with them.
Well, I think that there are some people who have an understanding that things are not as straightforward as the Sullivans and the Ursulas and people like that think it is. I mean, you have Macron, for example, who seems to be keen to discuss with the Russians some kind of team up on nuclear power engineering, where the Russians are the world leaders. I mean, so there are some people in the West who have a more sophisticated understanding of this. But if you ask me what Sullivan and Ursula and people like that think, I think they're every bit as ignorant as they say. I mean, I think they really do truly believe that if they impose all these high technology export bans on the Russians, then the Chinese will simply, click their heels and comply with them, or face some, who knows exactly what if they don't. I mean, try and sanction China, try and stop Chinese goods being imported to the United States. Think of the supply chain problems that would create. That's not even a realistic option. So I think the Sullivans and the Ursulas really do believe that. What was it, Sun Tzu, the Chinese strategist, once said, you know your enemy and you know yourself. You don't need to fear the outcome of 1,000 battles. If you know yourself but not your enemy, then for every victory you will suffer a defeat. If you know neither yourself nor your enemy, then you are a fool and you will fail at everything you undertake. Ursula and Sullivan are fools.
All right. On that note, we will leave it there. Once again, everybody, look up top. You will find a button. If you're watching this from Rumble, look up top. You'll find the button to Locals. Rumble is integrated with Locals. So all you have to do is click that button and you can become a member of our Locals community, where you'll not only get content like this video, but you'll get all kinds of other great content, not only from us, by the way, but also from our community as well. So you get all kinds of great news and content when you join Locals. I think the news feed on Locals is, it's all you need to start your day and to end your day. You've got all the news right there. All the videos and news topics that you need is in our Locals community, as well as great content. Just click that button. You'll see it up top to Locals. And ODYSEE, BitChute, and of course, Super U is where you can find our videos as well. And good day. That's the code.
Good day.
That's the mug.
Our mugs.
10% off.
10% off.